Hello, everyone. This is Varsha, and you are watching the series of success stories brought to you by Indian Achievers Forum. So, once again, we are here with you all to discuss the success story of one more achiever of our, and this time we have with us Mr. Raghuram Lanka. Mr. Raghuram Lanka is a technologist with about 20 years of experience envisioning and delivering software. He is currently a vice president of Geo Platforms, Reliance, and heading the digital health platform focused to be the trusted, intelligent, and personalized health companion for every individual. But before we actually get to know more about the body, let's quickly have a look at a very small video telling you about what we actually do.
Indian Achievers Forum is driven by a full-fledged advisory board. The board consists of experienced personalities who have excelled in their respective careers. Together, the forum organizes conferences, events, workshops, exhibitions, trade shows, and B2B initiatives in India as well as abroad. Where there is passion, there is achievement. And where there is achievement, there is Indian Achievers Forum.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Good, good.
All right. So, though I have given a short introduction about you, I would please request you to tell us a bit more about yourself and also about your professional role.
Okay, first of all, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I wish you all a great life ahead. Thank you so much, Varsha, and to Indian Choose Forum for giving me this opportunity and a great warm introduction for me. Thank you so much. Okay, so let me start a little bit on my from my education standpoint. I did my computer science engineering from Usmania, so the University College, and then later on went to US to pursue my master's in computer science from University of Minnesota, Minneapolis. So I was at Microsoft. I joined, my career started there as a software engineering intern. And then I spent a good amount of my initial 10 years of my first 10 years of my professional work life at Microsoft, both in US and India, in various roles, working on Windows phones and then later on into some Azure cloud services and so on and so forth. Right around we call it as about 14 years to 15 years at work, realized I need to do something else in life, something more. That urge to actually do the startup led me to actually co-found a startup on AI and ML, focused on in healthcare, particularly around how do we bring personalization of treatment to cancer care, and also like particularly to Indian patients who are in need of various types of like chemos and so on and so forth. So that started my journey toward into health, and also that led me into building a lot of digital solutions, and expanded the scope to the entire rural India, focusing on how do we bring sustainability, development growth initiatives focused on fisheries, agriculture, and then healthcare. So that's about the last 6 to 8 years of my life, both as a startup and then later on at Geo. I continued the same sort of like focused on the Bharat initiatives, we call it as, and AI led and AI first initiatives. Our team has won several awards. With the last one, and one of the things that we are really proud was to win the UN SDG award in the Global World Summit 2020 for the 2021-22 year, in the smart urbanization category, for an app that we've built for fishermen. So on the personal front, I am a small town bred boy. I grew up in Machilipatnam, which is a coastal town in Andhra Pradesh. I where I spent most of my high schooling up to my 12th grade there. So I'm born and brought up in a large family with my grandparents and then and my uncles and all cousins staying together in the same house. So coming from a very humble background, my grandfather was a school teacher, and then my dad was a banker. My mom, housewife, and she taught a lot of those core values and respect to family traditions and culture and so on and so forth. I'm married to Mahati. She's definitely a better half. She's currently working as an engineering director at Uber. India. We have two lovely children. We stay at Hyderabad, and my son Mihir is currently in his 10th grade, and my daughter Alekhya is in his 6th. So net, I think I have a career both in US as well as in India. I have studies both in US as well as in India, and having seen a life across both the places, having seen mostly being global, it gives me immense satisfaction to sort of like look at it, look some of the challenges that we have at a global scale, and also but solve at micro scale, micro problems for that mire India and some of our rural livelihood issues that we have. But how do we build some of these things that can actually go global as well? So it aligns to the build local, go global initiatives that a lot of Indians and today Bharat initiatives are going after. So that's briefly about me, both on professional as well as on the personal life. But I hope that makes sense.
Amazing, sir. So now, as you have just mentioned that you have worked on AI solutions for farmer, fishermen, and healthcare for rural India. So can you please elaborate more on what you built and what is impact on the people out there?
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, so I think I wish I had one straight answer to this. Okay, let me start with one of the things that sort of like go back is every decision that we actually do, right, both at personal level as well as professional level, involves risks. We all take decisions, and every decision has a risk. Some of these decisions actually have both a significant impact either on life or livelihood. So I'm fortunate, luckily, to actually work on these decision making, what I call as tools and processes, and address what we call as the three fundamental keys for machine learning or AI. How do we build predictive models? How do we build personalization models? And how do we actually build preventive models to help in this decision making process? So I'll give you probably three examples, one on each. The first one is on the predictive modeling, goes back to the fisherman problem that I was talking about. India has a huge coastline with many states we have and several thousand villages lying across this coast. Our fisheries is a huge business and among these rural communities and forms a core livelihood for many of them. However, it is mined with risks. For example, like I am personally born and brought up in a coastal town. I have seen some of these devastating impacts of cyclones, like and a loss of human and what I call as an avoidable loss to human life. The most recent, for example, is something like Oki that hit our Tamil Nadu and Kerala coast in 2017. So the problem statement is that how do we enable some of these fishermen and our coastal communities to sort of like predict some of these weather conditions, not just at the coast, but also sometimes like 100 kilometers away into the sea, where they have to make decisions whether to go there or not, and so on. So that's a problem statement. So we work with INCOIS, and then which is an Indian government institute which provides these ocean weather forecasts for about a 3-day period. What we have done is that we sort of like built an automated AI-driven deep learning models that actually delivered a lot of these audio advisories in the several local dialects of and available to each of these fishermen in their via WhatsApp, via mobile apps, via geo chat or any other means, and multiple local channels that are available to them. I'm happy to state that this has very good adaptability, and then the continuous retention where fishermen continuously are listening to these advisories and using it for their daily decision making process. It not only resulted in saving lives, but it also helped in changing some of these rural and the economies, resulting both from savings of fuel as well as on better catchment because of better weather predictions and so on and so forth, which resulted in improvement in their livelihood and their economy itself. So that's one big what we call as how do we use predictive modeling to sort of like help in changing the livelihood. The second one I want to talk about is for farmers. So most of the times in the cropping season, our farmers actually are inundated with several advisories from multiple sources, sometimes not related to their crop as well, given the location where their farm is and so on and so forth. So one of the things that we have done as part of the one of the AI tools that we have built is to augment data from multiple sources, both including the images coming from the smartphone as well as the remote sensing images coming from our satellites and so on and so forth. and provide the specific advisory to this farmer at the current crop state and the current crop condition that he or she has at that point in time. This resulted in very pointed advisories, very effective advisories to the farmer. And then multiple studies have been done where some of the time we have seen that some of the crop yields are more than 30 to 40% as a result of these advisories. And we work with several bodies like ICRISAT and others to sort of like provide them. Right. And the third one, very recent and more the dearer to me, which brings me to my current role at Geo, is preventive health, and how do we help individuals to make decisions that lead to preventive and reduce the risk of by actually preventing the life effects to actually happen. So preventive health is a huge thing, right? So I mean, when we talk about health, right? So we always associate health to sickness. We associate health to so we do wake up in the morning and say, if I'm feeling sick, then should I visit a doctor, and so on and so forth. So how do we nudge someone to sort of like not even think about health as sickness, but health as actually wellness, and saying that how do we nudge someone to be healthy is the problem statement that we have been solving in GeoHealth. We have designed a very simple dashboard for each individual called Health Patri. It's very similar to the other patris that we see, like, hey, what's my Rasi Patri or fourth fortune patris and all the stuff that we typically see. This is very similar to that, but it's a health dashboard that actually gives a state of the health of me, which is clearly indicated with either a red or an amber color or a green color halo on my image. And then I can also see my family's members' health state. I can see my father, I can see my mother, my children health status in the same halos, and so on and so forth, which helps me to nudge to see if they are actually healthy or not, and if not, what can we do to actually help them to get to the healthy state. This so there is a lot of data crunching, modeling, and a lot of stuff happens behind the scenes. But at its simplicity, right, the way I would actually summarize is that so to actually like build some of these solutions, rather than going from a technology standpoint and then building some models that are not that cannot be reached to the end user. Some of the things that we have done as part of the initiatives that we have taken are around how do we get to that last mile, how do we get to that end user and focus on them and deliver the delightful decision making tools to them so that they can actually make a better decision. And life is all about making decisions, whether it is and how do we nudge them towards give them necessary tools to go and do that. So those are some of the solutions that we have built, and I can go in detail at a later point in time, but I think Varsha probably this is a good summary of it.
Right, sir, and amazing work you all are doing, I must say. So now moving ahead, nothing comes that easy to us, and I'm pretty sure that you must have also faced certain sort of challenges while building these. So, what are those challenges? If you can talk about that, and also how did you actually take these things to the end users?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, Varsha, and I always keep saying that we are not building an entertainment apps, and a lot of things that I talked about have nothing to do with. There is no reason for any of us to come back and use some of these solutions that I talked about. So retention has been like, how do we nudge towards happiness is definitely a big problem, and one of the things that I have learned over a process and goes back to the background of my own personal background where I was born, brought up, and so on, is to start looking at them. Empathy is a very, very critical thing. So being empathetic to the individual, like being empathetic to their problem statement, not focus on the technology side of it. Technology is a means to the end and not the end. But how do we actually focus on what in their livelihood, in their workflow, how do we get in so that rather than as an interference, but part of their workflows and help them to sort of like help in making their life better was the actually the overall goal. And it's not a simple thing to actually go and do that, and that's where it's a slow adaptive process. Sometimes you have to be patient, and sometimes like we don't see a result the day we launch, but then for 3 or 4 months nothing happens, and then slowly the traction comes, and then it keeps growing after that. There is a lot of word of mouth here. It takes time to build trust. So it takes time to, and some of the things that I've learned in life is to be patient and give that time for for some of these solutions to grow at their pace, but not remove the core essence of it, which is all about the value creation and the value proposition are all about end users and not about engineers.
Right, sir. So now, if you can please put some light on this Ayushman Bharat digital mission, data protection, and also the user privacy and other, like how you people are working towards this. If you can please elaborate a bit on this.
Okay, hey, hey, so thanks for asking this question. So this is, I mean, so I was talking about a lot about end users and so on. So to data protection, consent are something that we really are we have to concentrate, and it's one of the topics of discussion. Right? So government of India has done a pretty good job in terms of this whole Ayushman Bharat initiative, which is about how do we and we have seen this happening with UPI, where now with the UPI handle, we have many applications today for a peer-to-peer money transfers, and now all of us actually use a lot of these financial instruments for our cashless transactions that are going on. Similarly, think of like imagine a world where health can actually exactly I can go to a medical store, I can scan a QR code, and then pretty much my prescription is automatically available to the pharmacist because it is in the health locker, and hence they can deliver the right medication without the problem of legibility of the prescription that a doctor writes, or without the problem of me as an individual expressing the medicine to a pharmacist. So Ayushman Bharat, ABDM, as it is actually called as, and the health account is actually called as Ayushman Bharat Health Account. They are actually providing a framework in sort of like creating how an identity is established, how the health data can be stored and accessed. So in our current Geo Health team, what we have actually being built on top of the core regulatory aspects of both ABH and ABDM, and then the entire health locker data is accessed via the user consent, and the health patri that I talked about as an example previously is only accessed by even GeoHealth as a platform with user consent. So it's an explicit consent access system with user defining the time of access and when they can revoke, and to whom the access can actually be given. So we sort of like are building on top of it. So this is what the new world where we are going into. It's being called as a Web3 world with user-driven consent and so on, and some of the groundwork that is actually being coming as part of both DEPA as well as ABDM is being used by us as well.
Wonderful, sir. So now comes the question which I, personally love to ask our awardees, and that is, what are your feelings on winning this Indian Achievers Award for yourself?
Okay, frankly, I'm overwhelmed, honestly. So I remember seeing a post to actually say, hey, we have this Indian Achievers Forum. There is an award. Would you like to be nominated for it, and so on and so forth. I honestly didn't even believe that I have a chance at all. I filled the form and then forgot about it, and it was really, really pleasant feeling to actually see a mail coming from the IAF team to actually with that congratulations. And I think thank you for giving an opportunity and for folks like someone like me to sort of like even apply for this, and then even more thankful for actually winning something like this. I am not sure if I'm qualified, but I think it's a small token of recognition to a lot of some of the work that many of my team and the team members actually have done, focusing on something, problems that are on day-to-day life. So I think so all this award goes to all of them, to sort of like to every person who is working on Bharat level initiatives, focusing on farmers, focusing on fishermen, focusing on rural empowerment, focusing on SDG goals, and it is some of the recognition to all of those people to actually that their work can be recognized. And thank you IF team to actually give us this opportunity.
And I once again congratulate you on this achievement of yours, sir.
Thank you so much.
Right. So now, before concluding our lovely session, what message or mantra you would like to give to our younger generation who wish to become a successful entrepreneur someday and make a difference to Bharat?
Okay, so I think the new generation, I wish I'm 10 years younger. So the current generation is going, so you are very lucky. You are at a, so we had to think about even 10 years back how to deliver, how to actually, the infrastructure was definitely something that was always a question that we had to think through. Access to the world, access global is something that we always had to think through. The new generation, you are actually coming with a lot of these core problems solved for you. I so you are actually already starting, you're jump starting already from where we were about like a decade or 2 decades back. So please actually use these opportunities that are being given to you. Use your time wisely, and then scale yourselves to solve, think global, as I have been talking about. Be patient on the outcomes. Don't expect that you're going to get the result immediately the second later, but focus on a larger problem statement you have, break it into chunks, and then solve piece by piece. But then always think of scale as your day zero itself. Like, how will you scale? You don't have to solve scale from day zero, but still think about scale as you're building some of your solutions, and you're going to actually achieve a lot more than what we have or any of us have done. So I'm really, really, I think, looking at the new generation that is coming up and wishing you all the best.
Very, very correctly said, sir. So thank you so very much for joining with us today. It was pleasure talking to you, and I wish you all the success for all your future endeavors as well. And may you continue to inspire us the way you are doing. Thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. And all the best. Thank you.